A very good morning, everyone. My name is Priyasha Corrie. I will be the moderator for this session. I welcome you all on behalf of the Law Sister team. Today's session will be conducted on the topic How to Make a Job-Winning Law Resume. I request all the participants to kindly turn off their microphones and their cameras for a smooth session. Before we start with the session, I would like to give you an insight about Law Sister. Law Sister is a platform that connects clients to lawyers, lawyers to law students, and law students to law colleges. It's a platform made for the legal fraternity to benefit from the custom made services for lawyers, clients, law schools, and law students. To know more about our efforts, you can visit our website. The link to the same will be mentioned in the chat section. Participants, please note you can join us on our WhatsApp, and you can also follow us on our LinkedIn profile, Facebook, and Instagram. Participants, please note you can join us on our WhatsApp group to get more opportunities and internship opportunities details. And you can also get legal updates on our WhatsApp group. The link to the same will be mentioned in the comments section or the chat section. You can also follow us on our different social media accounts, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Participants, please note, towards the end of this session, we will be having 20 minutes for question answer round, where all your queries might be answered. Participants, if you have any questions that you would like to ask our speaker, you can mention that in the chat section. If you've attended the webinar till the end, your e-participation certificates will also be issued for the same. Without further ado, with the view of sharing and learning, we have invited Ms. Priyasha Corrie. She is the product development lead at Resugo. She is also a partner at Connected Law, a UAE-based law firm, and a founder at QLTS Geek, a web and mobile application offering simple and effective and affordable content to foreign lawyers preparing for QLTS Qualified Lawyers Transfer Scheme. We all know resume building is one of the main concerns for students across the world. ResuGo would like to help by making it easy for you to build a job-winning resume by following simple steps. Over to you, ma'am.
Hi, Prachi. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, yes, you are.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you to Law Sister for having us over. And we're very excited to help all of you build your CVs today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and maybe I'll dive right into the presentation because you've given a very good introduction and I don't have to say anything more. So I'll just dive quickly into a presentation, followed by which we will have an interactive session on building our CVs. Feel free to ask questions. We will try and address most of the questions at the end, but I'm happy for this to be an interactive session as well. So if there are any questions that I can take during the presentation, I will try and do that. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. All right, so this is going to be an interactive session. So if you have your mobile phones with you, what I would ask you to do is to go to www.menti.com. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. And then you can type in the code 821692, and then we can actually have an interactive session where I can ask you questions and you can answer without having to unmute yourself. Have most of you got to the screen? If yes, then click on the heart button. I'll give you a few seconds. Yeah, then I know that, okay, you've managed to log on and see the screen. Perfect.
Ma'am, can we provide them a link to your website so that it becomes easy for them in the chat section?
Sure, sure, I can do that. Let me just, this is not, I mean,
I
this is
think
not
we have
really,
already
yes,
www.menti.com.
Menteacher. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
we just
And
shared the
then
link.
just, yeah, perfect. Sorry. Yeah, great. It's okay. I mean, I'm sure people will get this in due course. So I'm gonna anyway start. But yeah, this is uh, perfect. Great. So a little bit about myself. I mean, thank you so much, Prachi, for the introduction. So I'm not going to waste time introducing myself, but just a little bit about my journey as a lawyer. I'm a corporate lawyer. I graduated out of NLU Jodhpur. I worked at Trilegal Mumbai for about 5 years. Then I moved to Dubai, and I've been working here for the last 5 years as well. And I've just recently set up my own firm. I'm also working with Resigo on developing the product, and I'm very excited to be able to give back and help students with building their resumes. And we're doing this in a very automated fashion, and we're happy to be the first resume builder exclusively for lawyers. I'm also the founder of another app called QLTS Geek, and this is for students who want to qualify as a lawyer in the UK. So I would invite all of you to follow Resigo as well as Kuwaitis Geek on social media, particularly LinkedIn, Instagram, because we're quite active and we're constantly developing our products. So very excited to share Resigo with you today. A little bit about today's agenda. We're going to cover what makes a good resume. I'm going to cover some of the resume writing tips, how to defeat a bot. I'm going to cover more on this during our presentation. What employers are looking for in law students and grabbing a job internship, certain useful resources for all of you, as well as the best part of the presentation today. I wouldn't call it presentation, the best part of today's workshop, which is building your resume, because I'm excited to see all of your resumes today as we build it together. Perfect. And then, of course, question and answers. Like I said, if you have any questions during the presentation as well, type it in the chat box. I'll try and address it. If not during the presentation, then after the presentation. Perfect. I've already seen questions, so which is good. Great. So now, just to make me understand a little bit about yourself, if you can just if you're on your phone, then you can click on, which year of law school you're in. For those who just recently joined, log on to menti.com and use the code above, and you'll be able to participate in all the votes here. Okay, thank you so much. I can see a lot of you participating, so that's very useful, and that helps us understand. Okay, so we have a lot of second and fifth years. Okay, perfect. No, that's very useful for me to know. Perfect. I'm going to move on. So on my screen, what I've done is that I've shared a few CVs of the best law schools in the world, which is Harvard Law School, as well as after this, you'll see a Yale Law School resume, as well as a Stanford Law School resume. I'm not expecting you to read it in detail, but I just want you to make a few observations as you have a look at it. I know it's not that legible, these CVs, but I want you to have a look at it and just, think about one or two words that sort of strike you as you see these CVs. So this is a Harvard Law School recommended resume. This is a Yale Law School recommended resume. Yeah, I know it's not clear. Well, thanks for the feedback. I was trying to make it a bit more legible, but my presentation doesn't allow it. But like I said, try and look at just your laptop screens rather than your phone screen, because on a phone screen, it's quite unclear. And then, of course, a Stanford Law School resume. Like I said, the idea is to just look at the format and just have a few quick observations. Perfect. Okay, so my question is, okay, to all of you is, what are your quick observations on the above resumes? You don't have to, I mean, because I know you didn't get time to read the content, but in general, when you had a look at those resumes, what did you think? Lengthy, okay. Okay, short, crisp. These are some good words coming up. Yeah, experience. Experience is definitely one of the most important components of your CV. Eye-catching. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say it's eye-catching because it's very simple. Simplified is a good word because a lot of us think that fancy resumes is what is eye-catching, but that's not really the case. A lot of law firms these days, or even employers, they actually just prefer a simple resume. Education is an important section, particularly for all of you who are law students. Good academics. Yes, good academics does play a role, but I don't want to discourage those who don't have good grades as well. You can still do well even if you don't have the best grades. In points and simplified, that's a good point. A lengthy, well, it's a single page resume, so I wouldn't really say it's too lengthy. It's black white. That's a very good observation. Some people have a lot of colorful resumes these days. It helps sometimes, but more often than not, employers just want to see a very simple CV. Thank you so much for all of your wonderful observations. I'm so impressed that in points, organized, precise. I like all everything that you observe, and of course, only one paper, which is one sheet. Yes, that's a very good observation. Publications, yeah, publications are important. I mean, but if you don't have publications, you can always make it up through other experiences, such as your mood quotes and things like that. Perfect. I'm so impressed with all of your comments because these are exactly on point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the next slide because we've had a very great start to today with all of your on the point observations. Now, a little bit about resume writing, and a lot of these tips I'm going to cover as we build your resume together. But your resume is essentially your sales tool. This is what you use to your resume is what you use to land yourself like an interview. So you need to make sure that you have something that's going to sell yourself. So right from the time you need to think about yourself as a salesperson. It's not easy to sell yourself. I mean, somebody like me as well, I have a tough time selling myself, but it's a good idea to start thinking about this early on in your career. The second is there are no hard and fast rules. You'll find a lot of resume writing tips. It's good to know the rules, but sometimes you can also break them. So just remember that, pay attention to the rules, but sometimes you can break them. You're the one who's drafting your resume, so you have the power to change your resume and present it the way you like. Another very important part is you're not going to spend more than 30 seconds. The employer is not going to spend more than 30 seconds reviewing your CV. I mean, that happens with me as well. If I get a resume, I don't have the time to go through it in detail. So what I do is I just quickly scan through it in 30 seconds, and I try and understand, is it worth spending more time on the resume? So if you're so it's very important that you make sure that everything's organized in your resume, because if you don't, then the reader is probably going to miss out on the key highlights of your resume. Another very important part of your resume is to make sure that you tailor it according to your the job that you're applying for. Are you applying to a law firm? Are you applying to a nonprofit? Are you applying to a government agency, or are you applying to a judge? So depending on the job that you're applying for, you'll have to tailor your CV, and that's very important. I've seen a lot of law students, they don't bother to amend or tailor their CV, and that is something that could make you lose out on a very important opportunity. Yeah, make sure that your work experience is well described. If you've worked at a law firm, explain all the projects that you worked on. Make sure that your resume is detailed enough. And this is something that you probably would have noticed from all the best law school resumes. Like, your resume must be concise, it must be accurate, error-free, well organized, clear, easy to read, and visually appealing. And I think all the three CVs that you just saw from the best law schools, they fit the bill. And of course, the last thing is your resume should beat the ATS. Now, I know a lot of you might not know what the ATS is. So if you don't know, then you might want to just click on the question mark, and then I can tell you a little bit more about what the ATS is. Great. Yeah. So a lot of you would probably not know what the ATS is. The ATS is essentially an applicant tracking system, and this is a software used by a lot of employers these days. So what this software does is that uh, um, it scans all the resumes and it picks out the most relevant resume based on the job description of the job. So, for example, just to give you like an illustration, nowadays recruiters for any particular position, they actually get about 500 to 600 resumes a day. Now, it's not possible for them to manually read through all the resumes. So what they do is that they put all these resumes through a software, and the software is more often known as ATS, or it could be called a parser, or it could be called even a bot, because it's actually a bot, right? A robot. So this robot scans all the resumes, they pick up the right keywords, and then based on whether the keywords matches the job descriptions, they pick up the most relevant candidates. Now, the problem with which a lot of candidates face is that they might not be using a CV which can be parsed or which can run through this ATS. So, for example, if you use a very fancy resumes with a lot of pictures or logos, what's going to happen is that the software or the robot will not really be able to read the resume because they're only used to reading words. So what's going to happen is that even if you're the best candidate for the job, you might not actually even get noticed because your CV has too much of graphics or photos, and the robot cannot really read all of this. So it's very important for your resume to be ATS friendly, and you'll see a lot of that advice coming in these days. Um, and here again, if you look at all the resumes that I showed you from Harvard, Yale, and Stanford, all of them did not have any pictures. They didn't have any photos or infographics, nothing fancy, just black and white and just words. So these resumes are ATS friendly. So if these resumes were to be put through an ATS, then they will definitely get through and the robot will be able to read the resume. I hope that's clear. So here again is another resume, which is quite a neat resume. So the question that I have for all of you is, what do you think about this resume? Do you think it will pass through an ATS or not? So if you think yes, then click the thumbs up. And if you think no, then click the thumbs down. Okay, I'm waiting for more votes. Okay, perfect. So we actually have more thumbs up than thumbs down. It's a very close battle. Almost. Okay, so we have a tie, which is good. Yeah, I think it's a very neat resume. If I were to see this resume, I would be happy. I mean, I'd be if I were to manually look at the CV, I would be impressed. But will it go through an ATS? I'm not sure about that. Actually, no, it wouldn't because it's got too many graphics. And the problem with this CV is that, okay, the robot is not going to be able to read this logo. Also, because there are two columns in the CV, they're going to be a bit confused, the robot. The robot is very used to reading only words. All the words in these, small boxes, it will be a bit confused. Also, this core skills, it's going to get confused because, these are all infographics that it will not be able to read. Of course, for a human, it's definitely going to read the CV. So if somebody were to just send me an email with the CV, then yes, I would be impressed. But if you were to apply to a job board or to one of those online websites, then it is possible that this particular CV might not get through. I know the text is not clear in the CV, but the idea is just to tell you that a fancy CV is not always a good thing. So here again, how do you defeat a bot? How do you defeat a robot? How do you defeat the ATS? Like I said, no fancy formats, charts, graphics, or tables. You want to keep your CV very simple. You've seen the best law schools, how they draft their CVs. There's nothing fancy about it. Use the right keywords. So that's very important. Like I said, you have to tailor your CV according to the law firm to the job that you're applying for. So let's say that you're applying to the corporate department of Amarchand, right? Cyril Amarchand. Now, and you've actually previously worked at a judge's office. You've previously worked at a small law firm. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to highlight your experience at the smaller law firm where you've worked in, and you need to use the right keywords. So if you're looking to join the corporate department of the best law firm in India, you need to use the right keywords. Say things like, "I worked at the corporate department of." I mean, this is of course it has to be true, but you can say things like, "Oh, I've worked on these type of agreements. I've worked on shareholders agreements, share purchase agreements. I've done research." So, you need to tailor your CV according to the person who you're applying to. Make sure that your contact information is not inserted in the header or the footer, which is, your Word document. Make sure that everything is just right below the header. Use the right file types. I'm sure all of you would anyways be doing this, but doc, docx, and PDF, they are ATS friendly. Use simple bullet points. Some people tend to use like fancy bullet points, like, certain pictures, or even these arrows, for example, in this presentation, they're not really ATS friendly. So if I were to use them in a CV, it might not really go through. So you need to use very simple CVs. I'm sorry, simple bullet points. Also, font size. The font size is very important, and for font type as well. If you're going to use like a fancy font, your ATS might not recognize it. But what ATS or these robots generally recognize is, like a sans serif or a serif font. Things like Times New Roman, Garamond, and of course, your font size should be large enough to be read. Again, no logos or pictures. I've already told you that before. And second is shading. What happens is a lot of us, and this includes my CV that I used while I was in my law university. I would mention a section heading, for example, education. and that would be shaded, you know. So I think the previous slide had this example where, oops, sorry. Um, so, sorry, I don't know why this happened. Okay, yeah, so if you look at this, you know, the section headings are shaded. So this is something that, you know, the robot is not going to be able to read. So make sure that your section headings are not shaded. Like I said, it can void out words. So I hope this is clear. Perfect. So like I said, the more simple your CV is, the more it's going to be be able to be read by a bot. So what are employers looking for? And this is something very simple that I'm just going to tell you based on my experience. One is they're looking for students with good qualities that a lawyer possesses, which is basically common sense and intellectual ability. Now, a lot of us, especially when we're young, we sometimes just don't use our common sense, and we don't ask the right questions because we're scared to look stupid. But what I would advise you is that if you're ever interning at any organization, ask a lot of questions, and they could be the most, you know, stupid questions, but don't feel afraid to ask questions, because that's how you build your common sense. You know, the more you ask, the more you'll understand what you're doing, and the more you'd be able to do a better job. It also shows to an employer that you're actually very interested in doing a good job when you ask a lot of questions, because what people want to see is curiosity. Good research, communication, and writing skills. Of course, this is quite simple, but what I would say is that don't be insecure, or don't be worried if you don't have all of these skills. These skills are something that you build throughout your life. So, for example, I would still take a writing class today because I know that I'm still not good enough. So, learning is a continuous effort. Communication is a continuous effort as well. It doesn't come naturally to everybody. It doesn't come naturally to me as well. So, you know, it's something that I have to as well work on every day. And that's something that I would also advise all of you to do. Take courses, take online courses to improve your writing skills, your verbal, your, you know, communication skills as well. It's something that's going to help you throughout your life. And if you have these communication and writing skills, then it's going to put you in a good position for the rest of your life. And, you know, like I said, learning never stops. Another point is, are you making their job easier? So sometimes I've noticed with a few people who I've worked with is, you know, they're probably making your life a little more difficult rather than easier. So you always need to be one step ahead of what your, you know, supervisor wants. So let's say your supervisor asks you to research on a particular topic. Make sure that you look at all the resources. Make sure that you do your homework before you ask them further questions. If the instruction is not clear, then of course you should make sure that you ask them, you know, all the questions that you want. If they've asked you to look for a particular legislation, try and go one step further and maybe also send them an article which is a good summary of that particular legislation. So try and make it appear that you're trying to essentially save their time, because the best thing that you can ever do for your supervisor or your senior is to save their time. And if you save their time, then I can tell you they're just gonna love you. uh, Also, you know, no matter how boring the job is, try and be enthusiastic about it. It's not always easy, but you know, if you're enthusiastic about what you do, if you're always um, pepped up and smiling and you know, taking everything in your stride, then your senior is gonna really appreciate you, because sometimes what happens during internships is that they would give you something very boring. Um, but if you're enthusiastic and you're still excited about what you do, then they would definitely appreciate that. Here are some useful resources for grabbing an internship or a job. Sorry. One is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is super important these days. Networking is very important as well. Uh, Now, I would say, in fact, I've written an article on networking. If you go to my LinkedIn profile, then you'd be able to read that article. So there, I've written a lot of tips, but I can give you an example of how networking um, works really well. So you don't, when you connect with somebody on LinkedIn, try not to be so desperate. Just, connect with that person, but you also need to break the ice before you start speaking to that person. Now, if you're going to connect with somebody and ask that person straight up, hey, I need a job, or hey, I need an internship, that person's going to not really like it, because they'll probably be like, who are you to ask me? I don't know anything about you. So when you connect with somebody, it's very important to break the ice. So how do you break the ice? One way to break the ice is to show that you've done some research about that person. So, for example, let's say somebody connects with me and they tell me that, oh, hi, Priyasha, it's very nice to connect with you. I've read your article. Then, it sort of would make me a little happy, because it shows that that person has done a little bit of research about myself, and they've also taken the efforts to read an article of mine. So that's how you can break the ice. Another way to get noticed is to be very active on LinkedIn and to post your articles, or to just engage with what's happening on LinkedIn. So one example is, I was actually, I was observing one particular law student from a Mumbai university on LinkedIn, and she was posting a lot about, qualifying as a solicitor in the UK. In fact, she had connected with me a few months before, and I never really noticed it. But I started noticing her activity on LinkedIn, and I realized that, okay, she's quite passionate about the subject of, let's say, qualifying as a solicitor in the UK. So what I did was I just sent her a message on LinkedIn. I was like, hey, I noticed that you've been quite active on this area. Let's have a chat. We had a chat, and then I realized that, okay, she could potentially help me out with one of my ventures, and she's now helping me with the social media and other things for QLTS. So I think the example that I'm trying to just demonstrate is that you don't have to always message somebody and ask them for something. You can always show that you're somebody who's passionate by your activities. So if you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, make sure that you're active. Publish your articles on LinkedIn. Share relevant articles, and make sure that you're talking a lot about the subjects that you're passionate about. So LinkedIn definitely is a great way to connect with people, and also set up coffee meetings. It's COVID times, so you might not be able to do that. But if you go and ask somebody just to meet for a coffee to give you some advice, I'm sure a lot of people will not mind doing that. So it's quite popular in the US and the UK. People keep setting up coffee meetings, and I'm sure it's going to catch up soon in India as well. Another useful resource that you can look into is Bahura. These are some of the recruiter job boards out there. There's Yellow Wire Consulting. They've recently launched um, a job portal only for lawyers. I think it would be useful for law students as well. So make sure that you check their website. There's Personal Injunction, there's IIM Jobs, and there's Law Jobs India. These are a few portals which are generally useful. Also, if you're active on LinkedIn, then you can follow these individuals, Divya Mehta, Akanksha Antal, and Vedanta Yadav. Akanksha conducts a very useful training for law students, and she does a lot of training sessions for how to prepare yourself for getting a job. So I would definitely say watch out for some of her resources as well on LinkedIn. And then, of course, there's Law Seco, Loctopus, and Bar and Bench. I'm sure all of you already know that, but uh, you do have a lot of resources for internships and opportunities on these platforms. So make sure that you're active and you are following all the updates here. Perfect. So I think we've now reached the best part about today's workshop, which is about building your resume. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to go to resugo.com. So I'm also going to go to resugo.com. I think the best way to do it is to open a new tab, like open a new window, so you can see me presenting. Okay, I see a lot of questions, so I'm going to actually address all these questions at the end. So before that, I want all of you to go to resugo.com, and then sorry, and then we can build our resume together. So if you can just say yes, if you've logged on to Resugo, just say yes on the chat, and then I can take you through the CV building process. Perfect. Great. Thank you so much. Perfect. Okay, so you can see my screen, right? So I'm on resugo.com, and I'm going to start building my resume. So I've clicked on make my free resume. Now I'm going to pose as a student, so I'm going to pretend like I'm a law student. And I'm going to click on National Law University, Jodhpur, and I'm going to click BB, BBA, okay, LLB. Have all of you reached the stage? I hope you've not faced any issues. So enter your university name and then your degree as well. And then you can click on next. So here is where you can select your areas of interest. So I'm going to click on corporate because that's what I like. I'll click on employment. I'll click on maybe banking and finance as well because I do a little bit of that. So have all of you reached this page? I hope so. Scroll down and then you can click on next. At the end of today's session, some of you can actually share your CV, and then I can comment on it as well, whatever CV that you've built on Resigo. And I'm going to click on yes for have you interned before, and I will mention trilegal. I'll mention November to December. So what areas of law did you work in your current or most recent internship? So I worked on corporate, and let's say I worked on TMT, which is Technology, Media, and Communication. And I'll click on Next. Now, I hope all of you have reached this stage. Again, just to make sure that we're all doing this together, if you can just click on yes, like a few of you, just say yes if you've reached the stage where what type of work did you carry out in your internship? Well, there are 70 of you here, so I'm sure a few of you can say yes, and then I'll move on. Okay, perfect. Great. Okay, glad to see you. Okay, so here you can click on what type of work you carried out. So generally in an internship, you would have done some research. So I'm clicking on research. Let's say due diligence. I did some work on due diligence. I would have done, let's say, article writing, document drafting and review, as well as note, because everybody does some sort of a note preparation in internships. I'm also going to add court proceedings because some of you might have done an internship with a litigation firm. So I'll just add it here just to help you out. Perfect. Now let's see for courts. Now I'm going to add for attending court proceedings, I'm going to add a court here. So I'll add Supreme Court of India and I'll add a Delhi High Court. And then I'll click on add. So in all these boxes, whichever has these orange buttons, I need to click on them because I need to add more information. So let's say for review, I'll have to click on this add documents and I can add a few points. So let's say that I worked on letters, I worked on powers of attorney, I worked on legal opinions. There are a lot many documents that I can write, that I can scroll through. One of the things that we're going to add to Resigo is a search button, so you can always search for all these documents that you worked on. And this, yeah. So that's it. I'm going to add these documents, and there you go. So I have all of these on my screen. Now, for research as well, I'm going to add a few BEAR acts. So since I did a corporate internship, I will add Companies Act. Contract Act as well, I would have done some research on. Sale of Goods Act. Here again, we will be adding a search feature. So if there is something that you need to search for, you can easily do that. So for example, if you've done litigation internship, you might want to click on Code of Criminal Procedure or Civil Procedure. It all depends on what your internship was, and then you can click the relevant BEAR Act. So I've added these. Okay, so I've pretty much added all that I've worked on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for a minute just for all of you to just complete this because it might take some time for you to have a look at this. But I hope you've understood how to fill up this section. It's quite simple. You just have to click on these buttons and search for what you've actually worked on and just with a few clicks, you can add all of them to this section. Oh, is my voice breaking or is it audible? I know sometimes there could be network issues at certain places, so some of you might have difficulties hearing. Okay, perfect, it's audible. Have all of you managed to fill up this section, which is what type of work did you carry out in your internship? Okay, that's good. Okay, a lot of you, Pooja, Diba, okay, all of you have filled that up. Perfect. Great, Vijaya, thank you so much. It's good to see all your names as well, Ambika. Yes, that because that makes it interactive, and I know that you're with me. Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much, Anshu, Rohit, Ritu. Perfect, great, great, perfect. Ria Pankuri. Great. So I'm going to now move on to the next section, which is basically the login section. So we're basically almost there, and we can continue building our resume by just logging in. So I'm going to log in. And my resume is being generated. So I've built a lot of resumes. So the resume that I built today is the July 26th resume. So I'm now going to, I've come to the screen with a dashboard and I'm going to now edit it. So my amazing resume is what I built today. And I will now edit this. How many of you have been able to, have you been able to log in? I'm going to give you a few, maybe 30 seconds or so just to fill in your details. So as soon as you've reached the dashboard, just let me know. Perfect. Thank you, Anjali. Ritu, thank you. Pooja, Shardul, perfect. Okay, so all of you are very quick. Hina, Vijay, perfect. Yeah. Just wait. I'll just wait for a few more seconds because I know it can take some time to log in and fill in your details. Perfect. Urvi, Pankuri, Nadia, so thank you so much. Done, okay. Great. Yeah. The key thing is I just want all of you to, make sure that you're with me and we're building our CVs together. Perfect. Thank you, Astha and Shuman. Okay, so I think a lot of us are have logged in. Aditya, I will get back to your question soon. Very good question. What's the advice for people who have no experience? I will definitely let you know that. But we're gonna first complete our CVs and then I'll get to that question. Perfect. So I'm on the dashboard and I'm on my amazing resume. I'm going to edit it. It's probably going to be a little slow, but the reason why I'm going slow is because I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. There's a saying which goes, if you want to go fast, then go alone. If you want to go slow, then go together. If you want to go far, then go together. So that's why I'm going a little slow. Okay, so I'm going to put in like an address. I'm going to put a random address. Yeah. So I'm going to fill out my personal section. And for the phone number, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put +91 because if you're applying for an international position, it's always good to put your country code. I have an email address and I'm going to save it. So one of the cool things about Resume is that as you work on each section, you will see your CV on the right-hand side. So on the preview pane, your CV is going to be updated automatically. So here again, if you look at the CV, it's quite simple. It's modeled on all the Harvard, Stanford, and the Yale Law School formats. So it's very simple. It's black and white. It's just words, and it's very easy to read as well. So my personal details are saved. My education, I'm going to add Jodhpur here. And I'll quickly add April, sorry. I joined in July 2005 and I graduated, let's say, May 2010. What I'll do is I'll just remove Jodhpur from here because it automatically adds the city name after the university. So my personal details are complete. My education is complete now. I hope all of you as well are on the same page as me. I'm gonna now, my areas of interest are selected, which is banking and finance, employment and corporate. And I'm gonna now work on my work experience. So I was working for Trilegal. I'm gonna add the city, which is Mumbai. And I'm just gonna quickly go through this. This is what Resigo has automated for me. So I just had to click a few buttons on what I worked on, and they've already provided me the text for my CV. So it's saving a lot of my time. So, and if I'm confused about how to draft my CV, then I don't have to worry because I already have some text to work with. So I primarily worked in the areas of telecommunication, media and technology law, and corporate. Now, here is where I can do some little bit of amending because sometimes you have to, a computer is not always super accurate. So I'll have to make a few amendments here. Prepared notes and legal memoranda on. So let's say that since I've done an internship on corporate, I would have done, I've done, let's say I've prepared a note on direct liability. So I've mentioned that, as well as enforceability of non-compete clauses in, let's say, commercial drugs. So if you work on any specific notes or memoranda, then you can specifically mention that here because that is something that's always good to mention in your CV, a little more detail about what work you've done. So for example, now if I were to use the CV and apply to, let's say, Cyril Amarchand or one of the top tier law firms, then, the interviewer will see that, oh, you know what, Priyasha has worked on direct liability, which is a very important topic. So in the interview, they might just ask me a few questions on direct liability. They would be happy about the fact that I've worked on something that a lot of clients ask for. So try and be detailed when you write about your notes. The next part is assisted in drafting, reviewing, and proofreading documents, including letters. So here I'm going to just make it small case. This is something that we'll correct in our system as well. Currently, it's all coming in caps. You should never have any capitalized terms in your resume because unless it's something to do with grammar, but here I don't need to capitalize these words. So I'm just going to make it small case. So I worked on powers of attorney, legal opinion, shareholder agreement, share purchase agreement, a joint venture agreement, memorandum of association, and articles of association. So here again, if I'm applying for a corporate position, then the person who's reading my CV, they will be happy because they will be happy to see that I've worked on a few corporate documents. So because I have mentioned in detail the sort of documents that I've worked on. And here, the next point is assisted in researching and drafting an article on. Now here again, I can add some details. So let's say that I worked on an article. So I can maybe write bankruptcy under Indian laws. Something like that. I mean, it's just a random topic that I mentioned. I did a legal due diligence on companies. And then also, I conducted research on legal queries covering all these bare acts. Now, it's sometimes good to mention specific sections. So let's say that I did some research on Section 12 of the Companies Act, then it's good to mention the section. You can, or you can just mention it brackets here, sections 12 and 234, let's say, or the Indian Contract Act, Section 27. So that's an important section. So when the interviewer sees your CV, they're going to be like, okay, you've worked in Section 27 of the Indian Contract Act. So tell me a little bit more about it. Can you give us a few examples of your research? So it's good to add a few details in your work experience section. So I've done a little bit of tailoring here, not too much, but I'm going to save it. And I'm done with my work experience. I just wanted to check with all of you if you've been able to uh, easily navigate these sections. In the meantime, I'll have a look at some of the questions. Okay, so Aditya's question is, for beginners who don't have any experience. Well, if you don't have any experience, then focus on your other strengths. Let's say that you're in your first year of law school, then you wouldn't have done any internships. But what you can do is you can focus on your achievements in your school, or you can focus on your activities in law school. So, for example, let's say you've joined the Moot Court Committee. So you can mention something like, I'm a member of the Moot Court Committee, or if you've done some debates in school, you can mention that. If you've written some articles as well, you can definitely mention that. Is it necessary to include our grade or semester marks in our resume? Yes, it is useful to add your grades, especially if you're in law school. And I think that's something that definitely we can, I think currently we don't really have a um, specific box for a CGPA, but I will add that here. So I'm going to add CGPA. Let's say in Jodhpur it's out of 10, so I'll add, let's say, 8 out of 10. So it's helpful to add your CGPA because um, a lot of employers, they sometimes want to see your grade. You don't have to mention your all your semester marks, but let's say that again, like I said, there are no hard and fast rules for resume writing. So let's say that you've had low grades in your initial semester and you've improved over the last year, and you have really high grades in your last year. Like let's say in your third year you have really high grades, but your first year was low grades. What you can do is you can mention your semester grades and show that you've actually made an improvement. So that way the employer sees that, over the last couple of years, you've actually improved yourself. So you'll have to be a little creative about how you mention that in your CV, because you don't want to overcomplicate your CV. But yeah, that's how you could mention your semester marks. But general standard is that you don't mention your semester marks in your resume. You just mention your CGPA or your overall grade. Certificates and achievements, yes. So we do have a certain position, a certain section for certification. So let's say that I've done, now again, you need to make sure that you're tailoring your CV according to the job that you're applying for. So let's say that I'm applying to um, a technology partner. So let's say a firm which practices a lot of tech law, right? They're advising a lot of technology companies. So what I will do is in my certification, if I've done a certificate on blockchain and AI, then I will mention that. Because if I've done the certification, then the lawyer who's recruiting me is going to be happy, because he will be like, oh, she has relevant experience, so maybe we should interview her. But if I mention a certification on, let's say, litigation, then, the technology law firm is not going to be interested. So So, which is why I keep saying that make sure that you're adding only relevant experience. Now, here again, if I were to send this CV to a judge, he might not be that interested because he'd be like, oh, okay, he wouldn't be interested in blockchain and AI that
Ma'am,
much. He probably, yeah.
ma'am, ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, I want to say, can you include the like certificates of webinar also?
Uh, well, it depends. If it's relevant, then definitely you can include certificates.
Of
Like I
webinar.
said, let's say you, yeah, so let's say that you attend, so you don't have to attach a certificate. You can just mention, I've attended this webinar on, let's say, it needs to be relevant to the job that you're applying for. So let's say that I've, again, to give you an example, if I don't have too much in my CV and I need to show that I have relevant experience, then I potentially would add a webinar if it's super relevant. So for example, again, if I'm applying to a technology lawyer, and I don't have none of my internships are related to technology law, but I have attended webinars on technology law, or I've done courses on technology law, then I would mention that in my certifications, or I would mention that in my activities. But of course, it's like I said, webinar is not the most important section of your CV. The most important section of your CV is your work experience, your education. Uh, the rest, everything else is something that adds to it. Um, so I can add maybe, let's say, one more certification. So I could, if it's a technology law firm, or right now I'm applying for a corporate job, so I would say I attended a course on global mergers and acquisitions, right? Global mergers and acquisitions. And then I would just say merger market. This is an organization. So here again, I have certain relevant experience. You don't have to include the certificate of your webinars in your CV. Nobody will ask that. If you apply to a top tier firm, they're gonna see your CV and they're gonna ask you. If they like your CV, they'll call you for an interview and they'll ask you questions, because a lawyer is able to know, like a senior lawyer can make out who's a good uh, candidate or not. They don't need to see certificates. They will ask you a few questions, and if you answer those questions well, then they would know that, okay, this person is a competent candidate. How important is it to mention about Moot Court experiences in a CV while applying for a corporate post? Yeah, it is important. Like Moot Court, I believe gives you a very good experience about. It makes you learn research skills. It improves your communication skills. So let's say that if I have gone for the a particular Moot Court, then I would definitely add it. Like if I'm applying to CAM, which is Cyril Amateur Mangalas, then I will definitely add NUJS. Let's say I've done the NUJS corporate law Moot. I would definitely add this. And then I would say, let's say we are the winner, or let's not put winner, let's put runners up. Um, and then I would put the date. So I think it really adds to the resume. Now that, let's say, if a corporate lawyer were to see the CV, they'd be like, okay, she's done, she likes to work in corporate law. She has worked for a corporate law firm. She has done a lot of, she's worked on documents relevant to corporate law. She's done done a moot court on corporate law. So this is a very relevant CV. Um,
Ma'am, your mic is mute.
Oh, okay. I hope I wasn't mute for so long. But anyways, perfect. Okay,
2 3
so let's.
seconds.
I think somebody's muting me. Is that the case? Because I've unmuted myself and okay, I think now, is there anything that I hope did you hear the part about the litigation lawyer?
No, ma'am.
Okay, anyway, yeah, so let's say that, if I were applying, I'm just giving an example of when you can mention a webinar on your CV. Let's say that you're applying for a job to a senior advocate and you attended a webinar conducted by, let's say, Mr. Gopal Subramaniam, or you've attended an online session conducted by Gopal Subramaniam, then that's quite relevant because it shows that you're interested in civil litigation or litigation in general. So I might just mention that in my CV, even though, like I said, webinar is not the most important section, but it would catch the attention of a lawyer because they would see a big name in the CV, right? They would see that, okay, oh, she's attended a webinar conducted by, let's say, Mr. Gopal Subramaniam. So it shows that, okay, she is interested in this area of law. But like I said, again, I wouldn't add blockchain and AI webinar if I were applying to a litigation lawyer because it might not be relevant. What about participation certificates? Do they make any difference? It depends on, again, the place that you're applying for. Let's say that I participated in the NUJS Moot code, but I didn't win it. I would still add it because it shows that I'm interested in corporate. Uh, it shows that I'm interested in corporate law, So I would still put it, even if I just participated. I would still put it as in my CV. But nobody would really ask me for the certificate, though. It's good to keep it in your record, but no one's really going to ask you for the certificates. Should we make field-specific CVs? Like when I'm applying for a corporate position, should I exclude my NGO and other unrelated internships? Yeah, again, it depends on how far you are. Like, for example, if you're in your 5th year and you've done, let's say, 6 internships or 7 internships, then I might, and I've taken, and it takes up a lot of space. I might just include my NGO internship, which could have been my first internship. So, but of course, I mean, I would try to restrict my CV to 2 pages. Um, but I think there's no harm in adding an NGO to your internships. Uh, as you get senior, like for example, if you have experience, if you're working, let's say if you're a second year associate in a law firm, then I wouldn't put NGO internship because that's irrelevant. But when you're a law student, you might not have done that many internships. So I think it helps to just put an NGO in your CV. And because you don't have too much to write about. So sometimes it's okay to put unrelated internships, but focus when you're explaining your CV, then you can focus a little bit more on the relevant experience. So let's say that here I were to add an NGO. So let's say that I add this NGO, okay? What I would do is, okay, this is not research. Or let's say that, yeah, this is slightly irrelevant, right? But I'll just add something very basic. Let's say Forest Wildlife Protection Act, right? That's relevant. So I will add this, but what I'm going to do is I will just not talk about it that much. I primarily work in areas of corporate advisory and compliance because, you know, an NGO will have most likely a lot of compliance work. In particular, my responsibilities, and then I would maybe uh, including, yeah, the Wildlife Protection Act, and to say advised on. Here is actually, I can actually use this to my advantage. I can say advised on compliance with the, let's say that I assisted them with complying with the licenses, advised on compliances with the Mumbai municipality, you know. This is sort of relevant for a corporate position because compliance is also a very important part of corporate work. So I can actually even use my NGO experience and tailor it for the position. Now I'm not telling you to make it to sort of tell any white lies, but what I'm trying to tell you is to amend it according to the job that you're applying for. So for example, if I were applying for a litigation lawyer, then I would probably just say I and this, if this is something that I did do in my internship, then I would say reviewed the litigation files of the NGO, you know, something like that. And I would retain the others because that would still be relevant. So that's how you tailor your CV. You know, you need to think about who you're applying to and then make sure that you're adding relevant experience. Grades of 10th and 12th. Grades of 10th and 12th will be relevant if you're in your first year, first to third year of law school. After that, I would say it's not super relevant, but let's say that you've got super great grades, then you might want to still include them. But I generally wouldn't add my 10th and 12th grades. But what I'll do is I'll note this point because it's something that we can actually add to our resume builder, which is grades for education, school grades, and CGPA. That's a good question. Because that's one, you know, if you guys face any issues with the resume builder as well, let us know because we're adding a lot many features to the builder. So if you want to see any additional features, just let me know on the chat button and we'll build that for you. Because we're all about adding new features to the project, to the product. Can we include certificates of webinars? Like I said, nobody really looks at certificates. You can tailor it. Okay, generally it is said that interning in NGOs is better in the first or second year, but if I want to pursue corporate law in the future, wouldn't it be better to intern under good corporate law firms during this period? And what is the importance of interning in NGOs throughout our law school career? That's a good question, Bria. I think it all depends on what you want out of your law career. So if you want to join a corporate law firm, then you don't have to intern at an NGO. You can definitely intern at an NGO in your first year because that's what a lot of law students do, and of course it's always good to get that experience. But as you move along in your career, you'd have to try and apply to corporate law firms. So try and get more corporate law firm internships. You don't have to intern in an NGO, but if you're interested in a particular cause, then there's no harm in volunteering for an NGO. So for example, I also sometimes do a little bit of volunteering with an NGO. It's completely unrelated to my corporate law career, but it's just that it's something that I like to do, so I do it. But I don't necessarily mention it in my CVs. So if I were to apply to another corporate law firm, I will, because I'm an experienced lawyer, I wouldn't mention my internship or my volunteering with the NGO if I don't have space in my CV, because it's probably not relevant. So I might not add it. Uh, Another question by Ritu, can we mention online courses? Definitely, online courses is useful. So, for example, again here, if I've done a online course on drafting, drafting, let's say, drafting commercial contracts. I will add that because that's super relevant for a corporate position. And this is, let's say, conducted by, you mentioned, I haven't heard of this, but you know, um, there's no harm in mentioning it. So your interviewer might ask you, okay, tell me a little bit more about what you learned in this course, right? Because it's relevant. If you're applying for a corporate position, then you need to be good in drafting commercial contracts. So it's helpful to add online courses. Okay, I think I'm unmuted myself. What about campus ambassador intern certificates? Yeah, I mean, I think it's useful. So, for example, let's say you were a campus ambassador um, for a new legal tech company, then it could potentially be of interest. So, let's say you're applying to a lawyer who works with a lot of startups. Okay, they will see that okay, this person has done a lot of activities. They worked as a campus ambassador for a startup. So let's say you were a campus ambassador for ResiGo, or in fact there's a position for a campus ambassador for ResiGo, by the way. So if you're interested, then just apply to hello@resigo.com. But yeah, so then you can mention that in your CV, and it might just be useful if you're applying, let's say, to a lawyer who works with a lot of startups. Participation certificates of quizzes. You don't need to attach any certificates to your CV, as I mentioned before, but there's no harm in mentioning if it's a very renowned quiz. You can mention this in your interests and activities. So I can mention, let's say, won the BBC Mastermind. I don't think they have this program anymore, but when we were young, there used to be this program. So if I mention this, then it would be like something super cool to have in my CV, because it's a big achievement. So I would mention it. Can we include MUN? Okay, this is United Nations, right? Model. Yes, definitely. It's very relevant because it shows that you have good communication skills. Not everybody is good enough to participate in Model United Nations. So if you have, then it would show that that you're actually a very smart person who loves debating activities, and you can probably mention it here. Participated in Model United Nations. Sorry, United Nations, and I'll mention 2009. Okay, so I put this in bullet points. It looks neater. So I think that's relevant. Debates is also relevant. Again, you don't have to attach any certificates, but you can mention it in your CV. A conference certificates as well, like I said, if it's relevant, then definitely mention it. So let's say that I attended, maybe I can mention it in certificates itself. Maybe here I can mention Global M&A Conference if it's relevant. And then it was conducted by one of the big law firms. So let's say DSK Legal. So that's my DSK Legal. Then I can mention it 2009. So I can mention that. So I mean, because it's relevant. So, but if it's not, then I would not include it. So, can we include virtual internships? Good question, Ritu, because I know nowadays a lot of people are not able to do physical internships. I think it definitely helps if you've done virtual internships. What you can do is make sure that you mention the description of your internship really well. So let's say that I've done an internship with a White and Case, okay, which is a lot of people have seen nowadays they're doing this internship. Now, I need to make sure that I have explained my internship really well. So let's say that I worked in corporate and competition. I'm not going to waste time here, but let's say that I did a report writing and I did some note memo. Here is where I'm gonna try and make sure that I add as many details as possible, because it's important to because what happens is some people might have this misconception or this notion that you don't do much in virtual internships. So you need to prove the fact that you actually did a lot of work in your virtual internship. So here is where you add as many details as possible. So what's going to happen is in your interview, they will ask you questions, and that's where you can actually show that you've done very good work in your virtual internship. What about if our CV is of 2 pages? It's fine to have 2 pages. I think it's just every country has a different practice. So I think sometimes a practice. I think it's more of a US practice, a 1-page CV. In India, I've seen a lot of 2-page CVs, so that's acceptable. So I would say 2-page CVs is fine. Pankari has another question. Would a 3-page CV work, or should we limit it to 1-2 pages only? I think the best practice is 2 pages. But like I said, there's no harm if it's 3 pages. Just make sure that it's not a lot of irrelevant information. But if it's 3 pages of relevant information, then it's perfect. It's fine. But I would generally try and stick to 2 pages. And sometimes even I have had 3-page CVs, but that's when I've had a lot to tell about myself. So I keep it at 3 pages.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, I
Yes.
want to say, like, what is the word limit of like making CV? Word limit exact.
There's no word limit as such. Like I said, the 2 to 3 pages is what you should be. 2 pages is what you should be aiming at. So let's say for now in this particular CV, it's almost about, I think, 2 pages. If I were to generate the PDF, then I would be able to see it. So let's just quickly see that. But okay, it's downloading. So here, if you look at the CV, it's a very simple CV, but it's quite clear. It clearly shows where I've studied, where I've worked, all my details. It's very neat, and it's right now it's a 2-page CV. But like I said, 2-page CV is ideal. Can I mention in my CV that I volunteered a Moot court as I'm in my first year? Yeah, that's fine. When you're in your first year, you don't have much experience, so you can add a lot of different things to your CV. Volunteering for a moot court, it shows that you're interested in participating in moot courts. It shows that you have initiative. So yes, I mean, I think it's a good thing to add if you're in your first year or your second year as well. And you also learn a lot of skills, to be honest, when you're volunteering for a moot court. You meet a lot of people, you learn organization skills, you see people arguing for the moot court. There's so much that you learn. So I think it's not just about your resume, but it's also about the practical skills that you learn in your life. Um, during COVID times, can you please guide us for an online internship? So, one of the things that Resigo that we're also going to do, because we want to help a lot of people get internships, is we're partnering with different organizations, and in due course, you will have the ability to apply for internships from Resigo. So let's say that I've built my CV here. Most likely, there will be a button where I can apply for a position from Resigo. So let's say that I want to apply for a particular internship position. All I'll have to do is click on this button, and with this resume, I'd be able to apply for the internship position. So that's something that we're working on. But in the meantime, you can check out, I would say, check out LawSeco. LawSeco has a lot of online internships. Um, Also, just sometimes, like I said, use LinkedIn, message lawyers, ask them, would you like me to help you with something? Let's say that I'm sure a lot of lawyers would say yes, because a lot of people need help. So it's a difficult time. So just feel free to randomly message somebody. Don't say internship, I'm looking for an internship. Just say that, hi, just give a little bit of introduction to yourself, break the ice, tell them that, hey, I've seen your profile and I'm so impressed. I'm so much in awe of you. I read your articles. I am interested in, let's say you're applying to an aviation lawyer. So say that, okay, I'm interested in the aviation sector. Do you think I can help you out with something? Not every lawyer will answer your LinkedIn message, but you can try with a few lawyers and they might just give you an internship. What courses would you suggest to study online for students who want to pursue corporate law on sites like Coursera? Anything in relation to corporate law. Corporate law is a very vast subject, so I understand. You can do a course on drafting. You can do a course on contract law. You can do a course on mergers and acquisitions, joint ventures, investments. These are some examples. I would say go and have a look at the profiles of some of the corporate lawyers and see what is their experience, and then you'll get an idea about what you could potentially study. Is it good to do inside Shepard internships, or have they got a bad reputation? I actually don't know this answer because, but if I were to see an internship like if I were to personally see a CV with an internship from like an inside job, I wouldn't mind it. I would just ask the candidate, okay, tell me a little bit more about what you did in your internship. A question from Anshu. Yes, you can include ongoing internships. Word limit, I've answered that question. Good places to intern for technology law. Yeah, you should just, in fact, if my screen is still being shared, what I would do is I would just go to Legal 500, right? And then I would go to India, and then I would put TMT. TMT is Technology, Media, and Communication. So this website will tell me the best law firms in this sector. Of course, there are so many other law firms as well, but these are some examples. I would try and also look at all these names. So I would look at, okay, let's say there's Indus Law and there's this person called Rahul Goel. So I might send a connection request to this person on LinkedIn, and then I might follow this person. And then I might just try and understand a little bit more about what this person does, and then post relevant articles, catch this person's attention. Here, I would try and look at all the names. I would look at all these law firms, and I would apply to these law firms. And in fact, of course, you don't land an internship in one day, right? So I would have to constantly follow these people, do a lot of research, check out all the new law firms, because it's always helpful to check out these new law firms, because new law firms are a little more open towards interns and So I would try to check out Lex Counsel. They seem like a new law firm, so I would do some research here, and that's how I would apply for a technology internship. I hope that's useful. Is it important to get to do any other language like German or French to get into a good law firm? I think in India it doesn't. It's not super relevant. But if I were applying to if I were to apply to an international law firm, then they would appreciate it. Especially if I were to look to work in Germany, then having knowledge of German is amazing. That's a big advantage. Or if you're working for a French law firm, then knowledge of French is super useful. Or if you were applying to a partner in India who works with a lot of German clients, then yes, he might be interested if you're super fluent in German. But you'll have to tell that partner that, hey, I can have good conversations in German. Um, so he would be interested in your profile. So like I said, you have to look at where you're applying to, what the partner does. If he's working for a lot of German clients, then, it's going to be super relevant. So relevant is the key word for today. We're running out of time, so I'm just going to take a few more questions, and then we'll have to, close the session. Abhishek, I didn't really understand your question. Did you post a question before? Maybe you can post your question again. Please help on my query as past work increases the length. Like if you have a lot of, if you have like 12 internships, then like I said, you have to cherry pick the internships that are relevant for your application. So if I had 12 internships and I were applying to a corporate law firm, I would only choose like, let's say maybe 5, 6, which are actual corporate law internships. Is contract law related to corporate law? Yes, it is. Contract law is like a basic law that, is relevant to a lot of different practice areas. It's important for corporate law as well. Many online free courses. Is it worth doing? Yes, I mean, if it's relevant. So if you're applying to an IP law firm and there's a free course in IPR, I would do it. I mean, if I had an interest in IPR, I would do it. And if I were applying to an IP law firm, I would definitely include that in my CV. Research papers, we do have a section for that. So research is interesting. It's a good area. So I would add, let's say if I had done some research on legal due diligence, then I would mention it. Journal of Corporate Law, and it's been published, then I add this. So it's relevant. I have 10 years of experience from a different domain, now pursuing LLB. How much of detail should I put into the JD? Will it be relevant? No, I think it's relevant. If you have 10 years of experience, it means that you have a lot of practical knowledge and you know how to work in a in a office environment. You would have a lot of responsibility and professionalism. So I think it's very relevant. I would mention it definitely, and I would again try and tailor it to match it to that of my to the application. So for example, let's say you worked as a manager of a bank and you were applying to a corporate law firm. I would mention some of the relevant experience, some of the relevant information when I worked in the bank. So I would mention that I worked with let's say the vice president on bank on dealing with issues that clients faced, or I would say I negotiated loans with customers. So these would be relevant for a law firm as well. Is the certification course on IPR relevant for, not too relevant, but like I said, if I don't have too much of information in my CV, I might just add it. I would add it, most law students don't have too much of experience or too much to add in their CV. So I might just add it. The multiple internships during the same period of time. It's a tricky question. Um, some people might be curious about why you did so many internships at the same time, because it's not easy to do that. So I would, I'm not sure whether I would add multiple internships, but it all depends on the situation. Again, if it's relevant and if you can explain yourself in your interview as to why you did it at the same time, then I can, I mean, you can add it. There's a question from Staff. How much and what kind of experience should I have till my fifth year as I want to be a judge? I'm not the perfect person to answer this question because I pursued corporate law, but you should have. I think you should have worked with a judge if you want to be a judge in the future. You should have worked with litigation lawyers, so you understand the other side as well. So you understand both what it is to be a judge and what is to be a lawyer as well. So I would say a lot of litigation internships would be useful if you were looking to be a judge. And I think to be a judge, you need to pass an exam as well, like a judicial services exam. So make sure that you're preparing for that. And I don't think there's an interview process or a resume process for that. So I think it's all about clearing an exam. Great. So I think I've covered most of the questions. And in case I haven't, then feel free to connect with us. Follow Resigo on LinkedIn. So this is LinkedIn. So what I would say is just go to Resigo, and then you'll see this company. So we're posting a lot of interesting information for all of you. So I would definitely advise you to follow Resigo. Oops, I'm not sure why this. Okay, so, and we have a lot of updates coming. Like I said, we're going to soon allow you to apply for internships using Resigo. So make sure that you're registered on our platform, you follow us, you'll get a lot of updates. You'll see a lot of advice where we've talked about, the ATS, the applicant tracking system. You'll see we also post videos about how to work through our website. And we share tips now and then. And here, this is another internship opportunity with Resigo. So here again, if you follow us on LinkedIn, you'll get you'll get a lot of interesting information. Do you have any sessions related to judiciary preparation procedure? We don't do that. Hopefully, at some point we might, but I would say follow LawSeco. LawSeco does a lot of sessions for judiciary preparation, and I'm sure LawSisto will as well at some point organize these sessions because they've been organizing a lot of interesting sessions. Okay, perfect. So I think we're done for today. Thank you so much for your interest. A lot of you participated really well. And I hope you've been able to make your CVs. If you have any, suggestions for Resigo, or if you have any features that you'd like to see in Resigo, do let us know, and we will definitely work on building that. Like I said, our resumes are based on the best law schools of the world. And these resumes have also been built by, we've had these resumes, basically partners of large law firms, top tier law firms in India have reviewed these CVs and they've approved it. They've endorsed it. So definitely these CVs are, generated on the Resigo platform will definitely catch attention. So I hope this session, along with building your resume on Resigo, lands you the perfect opportunity. It is difficult times, but I'm sure that all of you will make it through. It's all these difficult times which make you a stronger person. And so I wish all of you the very best. And like I said, We're always here to help you out. We want to help a lot of law students. So follow us, and I'd like to finally thank Law Sister as well for this opportunity to help you all out with building your resume. And of course, Prachi, thank you. If you have any final words to say, but I think we're pretty much done with today's session. Thank you so much, everybody. And like I said, follow Resigo, and any questions, just or any suggestions, just feel free to email us, and we would love to hear your requests for additional features on Resigo. And I hope you download your CV as well. So you can, if you have any comments, you can always email it to hello@resigo.com, and we can help you out somehow. Perfect. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm logging off. Thank you, Prachi.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah. Bye.